Let's quickly join Femi for World Brief. Femi, you're in London, innit?
I'm in London, innit, Rufai? Good morning, good morning,
Morning.
good morning. How are you all doing? Morning.
Good morning, Adefemi.
Morning, Ayo.
I'm doing good, mate.
Rotis.
Good morning, good morning.
Wasn't that a wonderful package that we had from Chicago then? Just wrapping up together everything that's been happening at the DNC, and then also listening to Adesuwa's great analysis. It's just been such an eventful night from last night into this morning. And starting with the global brief, we will actually also be talking about the DNC. But this time we'll be mentioning a special focus rather on Joe Biden and his appearance at the first day of the Democratic National Convention. He took to the stage towards the end. He was the last person on the ticket for day one, and he did a great job of firstly masking his entire political career. He spoke for 47 minutes, and it was a very clear, concise, unwavering speech that he delivered, starting about his own beginnings, his own career. He talks and joked, made jest of the fact that at the very beginning of his political career, the criticism he was hearing was that he was too young at 29 years old to join the Senate. And now fast forward to the likely end of his at least presidential career, we do hear the criticism that he is too old to run for re-election for presidency. So it was very interesting to hear what he said. But what I wanted to highlight really for me, because I think his speech was one of the standout moments for me, was how he ended. Let's take a listen to that clip just now.
World. Could a kid with a stutter and modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania and Claymont, Delaware, grow up to sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office? That's because America is and always has been a nation of possibilities. Possibilities. We must never lose that. Never. Kamala and Tim understand that this nation must continue to be a place of possibilities.
Definitely. They must continue to make sure that they understand that the United States is a place of possibilities. And if Kamala Harris is able to make it into the Oval Office as president, as we all know, that would make her the first woman, and of course the first woman of color to do so. It would be, again, highlighting the fact that America is a place where perhaps this American dream can in fact come true, and that no matter where people start, it has no bearing on where they end up on. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But mentioning all of this talk, we cannot forget, of course, Donald Trump, who is also campaigning aggressively in every battleground state. He will be hitting every single battleground state this week. And again, you can imagine he's trying to level the playing field. Of course, there's going to be a lot of attention on the DNC, the heavy hitters that spoke on day one. The Obamas taking the stage on day two, and then across the week until Thursday. So President Trump has been making appearances, talking like he usually does, making his usual jabs at the different political candidates. That is, of course, Kamala Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz. So it will be very, very interesting times ahead. With every day, you can see that this US election is heating up. I'm delicious. I'm gagging to hear your thoughts on this. But before we come back to you for your thoughts on DNC Day 1, let's take a look at some other stories that are happening. Here in the United Kingdom, I've got some royal gist for you. What we're hearing is that Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, may be being forced out of his royal lodging. Now, King Charles has not renewed the security detail. So in effect, he has fired every single member of the Duke of York security detail at the Royal Lodge, meaning that at some point you're going to have to leave this house, my friend, and find somewhere else to go. We'll remember that the Duke of York, you know, when Queen Elizabeth II was still alive, it was something that was widely discussed that the Duke of York was her favorite son, and that he enjoyed certain protections, especially with a lot of the blowback he received in terms of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and accusations of sexual assault. All of those negative sides of his image did definitely have an impact on his public-facing career. He did, of course, have to step back from his official royal duties, but he is still lodging at the Royal Lodge, this time now without any security. King Charles says, I'm not paying for your men again, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not he goes off to another cottage in the United Kingdom or perhaps goes off into private residence. But it's definitely quite interesting to look at the reasons why King Charles has sought to do this. To one extent, you could say perhaps it's a cost-saving measure, but if you remember a few weeks ago when we were looking at international papers, we discussed how the official monarchy income for this year into 2025 has ballooned. So perhaps this isn't a money issue, is this an issue between the brothers? It will be interesting to find out whether or not Prince Andrew goes, and if you can shed some light on why his brother is not paying for his security again. And then lastly, some dastardly news out of the United Kingdom. Actually, it's coming out of Sicily. You've got 22 people who were on a boat, a luxury yacht off the coast of Sicily in Italy. That yacht unfortunately capsized and sank. A few people were able to be rescued, but as it stands, you do have quite a few notable people who still remain missing. Among those people missing is someone who's been popularly referred to as the British Bill Gates, a 58-year-old Mike Lynch. Him and his daughter Hannah, 18 years old, they are among the people who are missing. They were not saved as survivors, and their bodies are yet to be uncovered if they have unfortunately lost their lives. In addition to that, you have the Morgan Stanley chairman and who is Jonathan Bloomer, and of course Clifford Chance, which is a very popular law firm. One of their lawyers, Chris Morvio, are among the 6 missing people who at this point are still unaccounted for. Search agencies in Italy and Sicily say that they will resume their searches and will go underneath the water. Wreckage has sunk to the bottom of the water space there, and we're hoping for some shed of positive news coming out of there. But as it stands now, quite a lot of notable people in the legal and financial sphere in the United Kingdom, along with at least one of their children, 18-year-old Hannah, remain missing. Back to you in the studio. Let's hear your thoughts.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, well, with respect to Joe Biden's speech, I did think that was the highlight of yesterday. Even myself, I got emotional just watching him speak, and then the applause. I mean, they were cheering for what, almost 5 minutes before he spoke. So that was emotional. Joe Biden, his legacy is strong as he rides into the sunset. He truly put his country first in front of his own ambitions, and that is something that public officials around the world, especially here in Nigeria, should learn from the selflessness of the office and what it demands. To the royal family, you preempted me. I really did think it was about cost cutting, but you probably would be in the best position to know what's going on there with that eviction and that tragedy in Sicily. Pretty sad. We hope that they find the bodies soon enough and the families get closure after what happened.
All right, yeah, so starting off with the royal family, again, I think it's a matter of cost. It was said that the Royal Lodge was previously occupied by the Queen Mother until her death in 2002, and then the Queen then moved Prince Andrew in. Now it's a 31-bed mansion, and you can imagine the amount of money it would take to maintain such a property. He currently lives there, very interesting arrangement, with his ex-wife, Princess Sarah Ferguson. And they've been there together, living side by side. And so what they're saying is that they're not just kicking him out to the streets. His brother isn't kicking him out. He's asking them to take on Frogmore Cottage, which belonged to Prince Harry and Meghan before they moved to the United States of America. It's a much smaller accommodation, and also it's within the secured area around the Windsor Castle. So they would also get protection without the additional £4 million pounds as it would currently cost the king to maintain his brother's lifestyle. So maybe it's a matter, there's no royal rivalry there. I'm hoping that's not the case, because it looks like that's what we've been hearing a lot from the royal family. And the British people need some news, some royal news to keep them, sipping their tea and having conversations over dinner. But let me talk about the United States of America. I thought President Joe Biden's speech was a highlight of the night yesterday, and it was positioned to be the highlight of the evening, because you would notice that they gave him that honor, and it was clear to see that in that show of unity and solidarity, they made it Biden night. So they gave him the first night of the convention, even though, Kamala Harris spoke when she came with a lot of pomp and pageantry. But it was in honor to the fact that this man did the honorable thing by not sitting tight and holding on to his position, seeing that it might have cost his party the ticket or might have cost the party the presidency. And so and also a number of people are still sensitive. In fact, prior to the convention, analysts had talked about the fact that the Democrats had to handle the situation sensitively so that people who had donated, to his campaign, people who were very, sympathetic to him would not take offense and they wouldn't lose that base. And I thought they handled it excellently in the way that they honored him. Great speech from him and, great to see him bow out so gracefully.
The scrappy kid from Scranton, the Obamas like to call him. I like to call him AKA Child of Promise. He showed it yesterday. This was the man that when he got elected to the Senate, he faced one of the biggest tragedies of his life. He lost his wife and he also lost a daughter. But he's been resilient. People told him it was over for him when he tried running the first time in the 80s because he quoted Neil Kinnock and he never attributed the quote to Neil Kinnock and he said he'll never amount to anything. But he kept on fighting and look at him today. After the death of Bo, he's become president and he's also done something so selfless by thinking about his country first. So he's a child of promise, right out from Pennsylvania, coming to Delaware, doing so much for his nation. He's known to be one of the most bipartisan senators ever. He's been a bulwark in the Senate all these years, and that was his final curtain call. In fact, that's been one of the last greatest speeches of Joe Biden ever, and what a way to cap up the night. Congrats to him, big ups to him, a lot of possibilities for the Democratic Party, and let's see how the Obamas will do today, and let's see how that goes on. As regards Britain, let me do a little royal gossip a little. Why is Andrew even still having the temerity to even make any complaints when he's being chased out of his house? His mother paid him his inheritance by paying over £2 million to settle a legal case for him because he went to do the do with a small girl. And did I hear you say he's still living with Sarah Ferguson?
Yes.
I thought they are supposed to be divorced. This love after divorce and love again, they are long-time lovers.
People can still have an amicable relationship.
They're deceiving themselves.
They
love
be in love but not married.
Both of them love each other so much. They should tell the world. So how can you be living with your divorced wife? They can't get their hands off each other. Goodness knows what they're doing in there. Moving on. This disaster for the yacht also reminds me of the Titanic. This was how all the great people, the likes of the Astorias and everybody were there on the Titanic, and it did sink. A very sad one. I just hope the rescuers can still get some people up. In terms of memory, it also reminds me of what happened to Robert Maxwell, the top British media publisher. It was also on the yacht, and he was just found dead the other day. Very sad one coming out of that place in Italy. We just hope for the best. Roach is over to you.
All right, Adifemi, thank you so much for the World Brief. We appreciate it. Great stuff from you there.